Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be with you today with the Intuition Summit. And I am with my fellow co-host, Abby Gooch, who I met this summer at a family party, a celebration, and I was so excited to discover that we have so much in common. And today, we are going to be talking about the intuitive child and Abby's amazing background with intuition. Welcome, Abby.
Thanks, Emmy. So, Emmy, I'm so happy to be here, and I just feel honored to do this with you because we have such a shared mission of bringing intuition to the planet. And as you were introducing me, I'm like, you know what? It's really about soul family. It's really about us feeling that innate wisdom of love within all of us and that magnetic force that brings us together. So I know that when we get before we even met in person, we were talking on the phone, and I was like, oh my goodness, Dan, she's like a soul sister. I can just feel her. Like the vibration is so high. And that's why we want to listen to our intuitions, because it connects us to soul family, people like Emmy. It connects us to amazing job opportunities, careers, health, travel, home, you name it. So Emmy and I decided to do an intuition summit so you can get connected to your intuition. And she's talking about the intuitive child because she knows how much I love it. And it's just exploding into school systems. And actually Mexico, we just got back from. So I want to share with you about our nonprofit initiative, One Heart Global. I've shared a lot with you, but just our audience to just let them know what's happening in Mexico. And just bring everybody back to that intuitive connection. That's really why we're here.
Absolutely. So, how did you begin to trust your intuition? And I happen to have read your fabulous book,
Uh,
Touch the Light, Illuminate Your Highest Potential. And this is really a great, it's full of stories, but it's also really a great work or playbook to discover what your heart, your soul's wisdom really is guiding you toward.
yeah,
So
I
how
love
did you get into trusting your own intuition and becoming a professional with it?
Oh, so you know that cover of that book that you're holding up? Can you hold it up again?
Yeah.
See that light that I'm holding?
Yes.
How I felt the presence. You can call it life force connection, the light, love. And I honestly, I described it to my mom when I was a child. I said, hey, mom, I said, I feel like the world is holding me and I'm holding it at the same time. And as you're holding up that book cover, I realized that's exactly what I felt when I was 8 years old. So I started trusting that connection that I felt. And for me, I was also an intuitive child. So I would see things, I would see energy. So Em knows a lot about this, like with the third eye, right? So just pretty much everybody could see my hand. I would actually see the energy behind my hand or through my hand. I could see the energetic vibration, the color, what it was emitting. I could see different beings. I could hear things. I just knew things. So I was seeing the world from my heart. And that's where your intuitive connection starts. And I know Emmy's nodding because this is how she lives. And I truly believe, I get chills when I say this, that as we empower ourselves and children, which is the next wave of the future, we're going to have a more loving world, right? So the nonprofit One Heart Global, you can go to the mission statement. It's www.oneheartglobal.co/mission/. And I'll just paraphrase it a bit, but it's basically to love those that have hurt us and shine our light no matter what, and to be that one heart. And Emmy knows I was tested in the last few months in a really, really big way. I had to forgive somebody that I felt so hurt by, but Emmy kept telling me, Abby, there's something bigger. You're supposed to reach more people. There's more kids. And I did trust her, but I'm telling you, it was hard. So if you have any challenge right now where you're like, man, this doesn't feel so good, or I feel negative about myself or another person, I invite you to tune in to your intuition. And I keep talking about it. So let's just go into your intuition. So I invite everybody, if you're in a place where you can sit and close your eyes. So if you're driving and listening to this, please don't do it. Wait until you are parked and then you can do it. So close your eyes if you're in a place where you can do so. And then bring your awareness from your head into your heart. So you're going to start to feel from your heart. And at the orphanage we were at, I'll see if I can get a picture for everybody. There was literally a picture of a heart with eyes inside the heart. So you want to imagine your eyes are inside your heart for a moment. And you're going to start perceiving the world and feeling it through this vibration of love. Now, a lot of kids and adults can feel that love pouring from their heart into their hands. So you can start to rub your hands together and you can feel that energy vibrating. And then as you pull your hands apart, you can bring them further away and closer together. So this is activating your ability to actually move and feel energy, right? So we actually use our thoughts and our emotions to start creating energy and then channeling it by taking action, right? So the next part of connecting with your intuition is to move your awareness into your gut feeling, that inner compass. So from your heart, I actually like to say your heart is the gateway to your intuition. So you walk through that gate and then you go through that gate, and I actually call it a tunnel of love. So you go all the way down to the center point, 2 inches below your belly button, right where that gut instinctual knowing is. It's like if you just feel that just deep certainty, that truth, and certainty. So when you feel that, it can also be like, this is the negative version of it, like a punch in the gut, like, ooh, that didn't feel good. But I'm saying that because you can feel it viscerally. That's that strong feeling. And you can get a really strong no, like, ooh, that really doesn't feel right. Or yes, I just know that feels right. And I don't even know why, but I get this expansion and I just know I need to move in that direction. Like I've talked to clients before where they're like, I need to move to that place. I don't know why, or I need to go on that retreat with you and I don't know why, but they find out later. So it's that part of you that's truly beyond intellectual understanding. And I believe, and I think it's Albert Einstein that says something about the intuition is like, it's the faithful servant of the mind. It's beyond thought, right? It's beyond our rational thinking. And so Emmy, man, I think she has like her doctorate in this, and she can actually quote me a lot better in the science of it. I know for sure there's 500 million cells in our gut. So what I'm saying is our intuition is more intelligent than our conscious mind. So she will share, if she's willing, which I'm sure she probably is, the science behind that. I just know this innately and then I live it. And I'm like, I get to do shows like this because first of all, I love her, but she has that scientific background for all of you who are more intellectual to actually have the evidence of what I'm saying. So really quick, before I give it over to Emmy, just real quick, can you remember a time where you have felt and you have followed your gut feeling? And remember what happened when you did. Let's just think of one time you felt your intuition guiding you, didn't necessarily know why, you took action on it, and something really amazing happened. Sometimes I call it a miracle, but what was that? Remember that time? Who was there? How did it feel in your body? And then place your hand on your heart to anchor that feeling, remembering what it feels like to follow and to trust your intuition, and remembering that positive result that follows because you can trust your intuition.
Thank you so much for those beautiful and simple, really, exercises. And of course, I know you mentioned that there is science behind that, and really what the scientific world, the West, if you will, has really come to validate a lot of these principles that have been with humanity since the beginning of time. And now we understand that, for example, that the heart has a larger electromagnetic frequency than the brain, which was what you were talking about. And there has been research studies with people like Dean Radin, who is the chief scientist of the Institute of Noetic Sciences, where they've done studies where people were flashed. They hooked them up to all these physiological machines like a pulse oximeter, or being able to see how somebody's heart rate and oxygen is flowing in their body, and maybe even, I think they just kind of did some simple ones with that. And then they flashed a computer image that might evoke a certain feeling or emotion, whether it was a quote, happy or sad, or a scary image, or maybe something provocative. And what they found is that these were randomly generated by computers. And what they found is that people's physiology actually responded before they actually saw visually the image on the screen. So that shows that we have a precognition about us, and that we have that inner compass, that inner knowing, that soul's wisdom within us. So Abby, one of the reasons that I love and adore what you're doing and who you are is that you have been following your intuition since you were a child. You also, even though you had a large scholarship for your schooling at a really great college, you chose to skip all that and follow your intuition. And you also recognize, which is something that I have been just have a strong passion for, is that you know and are actually doing something in the world about helping to have children cultivate their inner intuitive abilities when many people are not doing that. So why did that become such a passion for you?
Yeah, it's a great question. Like when you feel like you're a round peg in a square hole,
Yeah.
that's how I felt. So I was like, man, like this doesn't feel good. There has to be another way. So during that first semester of college, I remember taking a walk and into nature. And this is where, I feel like people and myself included can get very activated in our intuition. And I just would pray and meditate and I'd be like, hey, God, like what am I supposed to do here? And I literally got an image. It's called clairvoyance when you have an inner seeing. And I would see myself sitting across from somebody and holding the energy, holding the space of unconditional love and non-judgment. And the person sitting in front of me knew their answer. And so I was like, if we already have the answers within us, why on the earth am I studying psychology and all these other things that are driving me nuts? And I just want to leave. Like it just didn't make sense to me. And I genuinely believe in college, if somebody knows why they're going, like, hey, I want to be a doctor or an astronaut or whatever you want to be, like, go because you're going to learn a specific thing. For me, I had no desire to learn really what they had to offer. I had the basic skills, right? I knew how to read and write and do math. So I'm like, okay, my parents were entrepreneurs. I can start a business. And my passion was for people and helping people. Like I started donating like all my naked juices to like homeless people on the side of the road. Like I naturally had this like inclination to serve and I felt so fulfilled. So for me, it wasn't so much about myself. Like I wanted to be happy, but I wanted to be able to give to the greater. And so I feel when we have that intention, we're always taken care of. And I might have gotten way off track of your question, but for some reason, it felt important to share that because I feel like, we're all connected, and even in Mexico, we did this ceremony and they were like, hey, put your hands on by this white candle and realize that somehow we're all connected. And I was like, oh my goodness. Like it was so beautiful. Like it was in a couples massage. I'm like, who are these people? We're all connected. Like they get it. We all are one. So I can't even believe I'm telling you this because you're the one that helped me through this 2 weeks ago. Even more is to say, right? We all are here on purpose if we listen to our intuition. And so for me, I knew my purpose early on. So I invite you to listen to your intuition first and foremost to connect to your purpose, which is your sole reason for being here. And as you find that, and if you're already on it, it's very fulfilling, right? And then in my experience, like I teach, adults how to make a lot of money doing it. And it starts with that knowing of truth within and being on purpose, because the money is the result of being on purpose, right? So anyways, back to your original question.
Yeah. Well, and because you're helping children with their intuition, what are some methods or ways you have found that can help children? For those of you who are listening, most of you are probably adults. And I also just want to support all of you who are listening to recognize that what Abby is about to share are maybe some methods that can help you support the children in your life, whether you are a parent, a grandparent, an aunt, an uncle, a teacher, or just somebody who cares about children and wants to support them. Because when we don't listen to our intuition, especially as children, or we're not supported, we can lose that inner GPS. We can lose that ability to trust ourselves. And also, those of you who are listening, we all have an inner child inside. So, that playful part of us that is still, that little person from many years ago as well.
Yeah. So I love what you said. So you all know how to feel your intuition because I just taught you that, right? Like it's that connecting in. So what Em just brought up is so important. It's I feel like it's giving intuition a voice. So for me, even in these last probably 6 months, I knew something was off. I could feel it, but I was actually too afraid to say something to that person, which is not normal for me. But now I know, oh, I knew there was my intuition telling me, but can we provide the space for ourselves and for children to speak up? I feel this. Who do I need to talk to? My intuition says, or maybe if it's too far out to say, my intuition says, just go tell somebody how you feel, like, the intuitive child program, like, the first little girl that we filmed, she talks about, being in her heart, and it's a feeling, right? So, what feels right or not. So can you hold the space for yourself and others, children or not children, right? To speak to your intuition, to share your intuition. And then the third part is to take action, right? So I started my company when I was 19 years old because I took action. I loved people and I took action, right? Like I was creating a website and flyers and leaving those flyers on cars. And I was like, am I ridiculous? I'm like, oh, well, I'm going to try it. And guess what? People started coming. Like my first client was in his 50s and I'm 19 years old. I'm like, wow, okay, the soul doesn't have an age. So, yeah, point being, give intuition a voice and take action on it. I feel like that's the biggest thing you can do, because I honestly feel like we all know it. We have it and we know it. It's just a matter of listening to it.
Right. So with your work with children, what are some methods that you use, some simple steps that you can suggest, and maybe even share a success story with one of the lucky people who got to be in your loving care with intuition?
Oh, you're sweet. So, I will share a story of, we just were in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. And we were serving, first of all, we served an orphanage. The second one was a center for special needs kids. And Dan actually took a video of me. I think I'm special needs. So I think we're all I really do. I think I'm special needs. I'm highly sensitive. I don't even like the label special needs, but to help people understand, the children we were working with, some of them had some, like they weren't able to fully like lift their bodies entirely, or the little boy I was working with, he actually couldn't hear or see. And one of the ways this particular center worked with kids is they actually were tying him to hold his body up. And it was supposed to be, and it is therapy in their eyes. For me, I walked in and I kind of freaked out. I was like, oh my God, this baby, he's not a baby. He was probably like maybe 6. I was like, he feels like he's trapped. He feels like he's being tied down. Like I didn't even think him. I just went into straight on intuition. I literally touched his heart, touched his gut. And I just, because he couldn't hear either, right? But I just said with my inner voice, and I connected to his third eye. So his inner seeing, because he could feel that. And I said with my inner voice, so again, it's beyond the physical. I'm with you. You're not alone. I'm with you. You're not alone. I'm right here. I love you. I'm with you. You're not alone. Right. One hand on my heart. Remember, he could feel, he couldn't see or hear, but he could feel. One hand on my heart, one hand on my gut, just like I just did with you guys, as far as you did it for yourselves, heart to gut. Right. He was screaming, banging his head against the thing. As soon as I did that, completely calm, quiet. The founder of the organization and the other, I don't know, leader of marketing or something came over, and they asked me to teach 28 employees now. So I'm going to be training their staff, because these kids, I understood they believed it's therapy, but I said on the emotional and the intuitive level, these kids don't understand, and they need to know that they're being loved, that they're being seen. And so I was with him for at least 20 or 30 minutes, a long time. And Dan came over, because I actually felt like I needed him there, Dan, to be there. I'm like, hey, I need some support. So he was there. Then he's like, babe, I got to go walk around with the other kids. I'm like, okay, okay. The kids started flipping out. I'm like, Dan, he needs your masculine energy. He needs to know that you are here. And so at first, Dan didn't believe me, because I said, hey, he needs to line up the chakras. So the chakras are energetic centers of our body. I said, he can see your chakras. You need to face him. All of your chakras align towards him, and let him know that he is powerful, that he is strong, that he can do this. Same thing happened. Complete calm, quiet, his body relaxed, his whole demeanor relaxed. And it was like, I'm like, point proven, babe. Like when you face each other in love, you literally activate somebody else's frequency. So that's why we're constantly affecting each other with energy. Again, it blows my mind. This beautiful child did not see or hear, but he could feel so highly. That's why in some ways special needs is accurate, because they're so highly intuitive. And so I believe they're God's gift, right? And so they taught me so much. And another story is like, we fed them, and another little boy, I was standing above him just because I didn't want to squat down for my knees, right? And a caregiver came over, and she's like, you need to look at him eye to eye. And I was like, oh my God, you're right. So I go eye to eye, and he just smiles, and it was just like instant, like we are all one. There's nobody better than, less than, none of it. It's just, we're all equal. We're all love, right? And he just lit up, and he wouldn't let me go. I mean, all the kids wouldn't let us go. But it was so amazing. And because it was like, it was hard for me at an emotional level because I was so empathetic. And a lot of you, my guests listening, are so empathetic that you can feel people, or, an environment, because you're so sensitive. But to actually go in and trust our intuitions, sorry, my voice is going out because I got a cough, but that we can be that change by being in love with our vibration. It's amazing. And the story I was telling you about with the person who hurt me is, it allowed me to actually now reach even more kids, right? So we started in one school, and then it expanded. Now we have 3 more schools that I've been able, to start touching. So it's like, you never know where your intuition is going to lead you, but you want to stay open to where that gut feeling is guiding you. And if there's one visceral way I can tell you to connect with that, it's your gut, right? But go through your heart first. Otherwise, it's going to be that reaction of fear. It's going to be fight or flight. But when you go through your heart, you're in that frequency of love, and then you're guided, and you magnetize these loving experiences, right?
Both of those stories are incredibly powerful and moving. And what you're describing, or an aspect of what you're describing, is that as an adult, a parent, a caregiver, a teacher, whatever your role is with children, how you show up, your presence, your love, your alignment with yourself can greatly impact the children you're being with. So the more, and I know it can be difficult at times, right? Because sometimes children will press your buttons, or maybe you're rushing to get to an appointment, or to get to school, or to go to bed at night, or to get up in the morning, all those transitional times, those can be, or even to try to sit down and have a meal together for dinner. That to be able to allow yourself as an adult, like Abby has so wonderfully shared with us, how to get into our hearts, how to get into that place of love, that we can then be more present. And there's a term, I'm an occupational therapist, so I was really feeling a lot for that child, because I think about how, and obviously that orphanage is doing what they can, and probably doing a lot of wonderful things with those children. And I also think about ways that maybe some OTs could also support some of those children, is that we can be those role models to amplify our own heart space and love and intuition. And then that inspires children to do that. And there's a term that I've come to know from many OTs, is there's a term called emotional regulation. So the more that we can get into that state of being, and heart math, like Abby was talking about, we were talking about earlier about the science of the heart. There's the Heart Math Institute, and they talk about coherence. When you're in a more coherent state, it's actually healthier for you, but it can also help with relationships. And the other term is co-regulation. So Abby, I think what you were describing, what you and Dan, your partner, were doing, was that you were co-regulating with that child, but you were doing it in a really beautiful way, in that you were using tactile sense. You were actually physically touching the child as well, and energetically, it sounds like.
No, you're totally right. Yeah. Yeah. I didn't realize that that's what it was called. Again, she's the science of what I just do naturally, but that is exactly what we were doing. Yeah. 100%. Huh?
Yeah. So what are some more examples of ways that those who are listening who might want to know some stories of how you've helped some other children. What are some of the other methods? I know you're trained in yoga, you're trained in Reiki, NLP, you're trained in energy healing, and you're really a self-taught intuitive from what I can tell, which I think is rare, for people to in our society, because we are so conditioned to go to school and get a job and do all this. And for some people, that is the natural and best path for them. But at the same time, you bypassed all of that and you went straight to your heart and straight to nature.
Yeah. You're right. I never thought of that. You know why? It's because I believe that's what integrity is. I believe that as I practice what I preach, I'm living it. And so I tested it on myself, like the intuitive success coaching process that I created since I was 19 up until like 20 years later, as of now. It's now an international company, from testing at private practice, wellness center to certification school. And I became it. So basically, I healed myself and created a life I loved by the process I created. So I'm like, well, if it works for me, it got to work for other people. So that's what I believe integrity is. If I'm teaching you, well, I better be doing it. And so I think that's why people trust me, because I'm like, oh my God, this works. The one person I really did follow was Sonia Choquette. I did 3 levels of training with her, and my NLP teacher was Michael Bennett. And he has since crossed over. So, and Janice Erickson also helped me teach. I'm not teach, well, I did teach with them, but helped teach me NLP. And to me, that's like the most powerful psychological tool I've ever learned, because it works with the subconscious. But to answer your question about kids, I'm trying to think of a specific thing. I mean, it's like every day.
Yeah, because it makes me think about when I was reading your book and learning about your path into this, is that you also were a nanny. And so I saw in your book how you were integrating this into, like you said, everyday activities. So it's kind of like people talk about like yoga on and off the mat. There's ways that you can like develop your intuition, but then it's also bringing it into the everyday moments as well.
Yeah, I mean, babies, kids, no matter what age, they feel what you're thinking. And I can be thinking like a negative thought and they'll like start crying. So I'm like, oh, watch your thoughts. Like they literally are picking up. And I don't know if you've ever noticed, but I know for me, when kids look at me, especially the younger they are, they look right at my third eye. They literally look right above my actual eye and they smile because they know I'm good people, right? But like, they're watching you. They're intuiting what your energy is. So just be aware. And, as you probably all know, subconsciously, we're learning more from somebody than just our conscious words, right? So, I would say, some techniques, it's the same for kids as it is for adults. I just feel,
You probably make it more playful for children, would be my guess.
yeah, I mean, we play and it's more like, what do you know? Like asking what they already know, and listening to them. Oh my God. I think I told you this story one time, Em, at Encinitas Country Day School. I remember there was this sweet little girl. Her name was Charlie. And, they know that I'm like an entrepreneur. So I think it inspired that in them. And so she literally went under the tree and started making perfume. And it was out of like dish soap and leaves or something, right? Did I tell you this?
You did. Yeah, it's a great
She was
story.
like so proud of herself, like had her little shop set up under the tree, making her perfume. And she's like, Miss Abby, do you want to buy some? I'm like, yeah, of course. And I actually give her like physical money. I'm like, yeah, you're doing it. So then other kids come up and have money, and she's like fully being an entrepreneur. So I'm like, wow, this is so amazing. Like she's feeling inspired. She's feeling empowered. Like she gets it. Like 10 or 15 minutes later, this other teacher comes up and like reams her for being under the tree. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And she's just like devastated. And I'm like, let me handle this. Like, I just need to let her know that what she did isn't wrong. And I guess prior, something I didn't know, she wasn't supposed to be under the tree. I had no idea. Maybe she would remembered, maybe she didn't. But I made sure she knew that following her intuition and becoming an entrepreneur, I think she was in 2nd grade, was so okay. And that the other teacher was upset just because I guess that she had been told earlier, right? So I could help her understand why. But to support a child's intuition, that they're naturally doing what they're feeling called to do. Let me make something that smells good. Let me get you some perfume, Miss Abby. Let me go sit in nature. What better place? Hello, we're like born on the planet. Like, wow, harmonizing, like being connected to the earth. Yay, A plus, right? And then let's go talk to kids and teachers about what I have to offer, my gift. And I'm so smart that I'm going to charge for it because I know we need money in the world. 4 A pluses. I'm like, you are brilliant. So it's to encourage what children are already doing. And please don't make them wrong. It's like, let's have an understanding. Like I explained to her, like, I guess this other teacher said that, she told you not to go into the tree, but you're not wrong. So I think it's just, acknowledging the genius, acknowledging the genius.
Mhm.
Yeah. And helping them feel good, like doing what feels good. Kids want to feel good. Like you said, play. You're absolutely right. Like we bring so much play in, it's like, yeah, I teach yoga and we bring yoga like in a way that's playful because it's like, I don't believe in just sitting on a mat. I'm like, hop off the mat, and it's like, yeah, it's fun to make games and enjoy, I absolutely love yoga games.
Well, I believe there's also research that I included in my intuitive development book that talks about how children are naturally intuitive. In fact, we're all naturally intuitive, but we get that squelched in ways that we've already described.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm so happy, like overjoyed actually, to talk with you about this topic, the intuitive child, because I do believe that the more that children are encouraged to listen to their intuition, and people for that matter, all of us, the better our world will be. And so this research shows that between the ages of 4 and 7 is when children can be, they start being more verbal before then, but they are very imaginative. In fact, it's not uncommon for children to have imaginary friends or to sense emotions and thoughts, how you're describing it, and to pick up energy and to sense body language. And then they're told that that's not real, or that's not really an imaginary friend, or so then that kind of gets trained out of them. And there's research that shows that when children are taught to listen to that, to play with it, to be with it, to cultivate it, that they actually are more intuitive as they go on in life. So were you taught how to trust your intuition from a younger age yourself?
I was just never, well, actually, I was going to say I was never told not to, but
Yeah, exactly.
parents didn't believe me actually when I told them something didn't happen that they thought did. So that ironically for me was the catalyst to developing my intuition, because I have such a strong personality that if somebody tells me not to, I'll probably go do the opposite. And I was like, wait, I know that I know that didn't happen because I can feel the truth in my body. So it helped me discern what my intuition was. Prior to that, I did have imaginary friends. Like I shared with you, I did see energy, but I remember playing in the apple trees and I absolutely had imaginary friends. They were sitting in the tree with me. I'd get on my little bike that kind of looked like a car and, played and did all that stuff. And yeah, saw fairies, like they never told me that wasn't real. I didn't really tell them though. It's funny. Like even when I was seeing, like, I remember we were going to what they call meeting, which was like church for us. Like we were driving and I saw this tree and I saw these beings of light. They were transparent, meaning you could have just like, I could put my hand through them, but they were like life size. And it was like golden, white light and pink. I still remember it sparkly. It was like a human, but it was just light being, and it was holding a baby and they were crying. Like the mother was crying with the baby under the tree. And it was just, I remember just like looking at the window, like, is that really there? And I think I knew nobody else could see it. So I didn't say anything, but I knew what I saw. So it's like, I absolutely know a lot of kids are seeing things and maybe not saying anything. That's why I'm saying giving children a voice, encouraging what they see, not making them wrong, not telling them they're crazy or anything, right? Like, actually, when I left the scholarship, the dean was like, are you crazy? I'm like, maybe, but I'm leaving. Like, I was okay with like potentially accepting that label because it's like, I knew for real what was happening. And so even if it's the road less traveled, it's still a path worth taking, right? And so Anyways, yeah, just to know that, we can see these things that are important for us to see, and trusting them, trusting the messages we're getting. Um, yeah, it's bringing a frequency. I was just thinking about those kids at that center, like what frequency they're bringing, and what frequency we're bringing to them. So yeah,
Yeah.
that answered your question.
Yeah, it does. And when you left going to college, you were listening to your intuition. I mean, that's the thing, is that sometimes I think people can overthink their intuition, or just overthink challenges or problems. And for you, you had a knowing that that just was not the right path for you. And you described it now, and in your book, you mention about how you can sense angels, and that many children are able to do this. And it's so interesting because in our religions, that there's a whole intuitive psychic component to religion. In fact, religions, dare I say, are all based on that intuitive ability of our consciousness. And yet many children are taught to dismiss it, I think because the parents were taught to dismiss it within themselves often cases.
Maybe, or they're afraid. And just, you're absolutely right. Like, I did sense, and then I actually saw them. So it's a whole other level. Like, I remember, I think it was when I started. Yeah, I was like 19. I literally saw wings of an angel on the wall. Like, it took up the whole wall. I was like, wow. So I think it's actually dispelling the fear, because I think there also can be fear in religion. I know the fear that I have sometimes was religious based. So I still, as you know, I have to work with letting go of some of those beliefs, because to me, my direct experience of God has been love, as an experience, not a teaching, but as a direct experience. And so that's why I encourage people to follow their intuitions as a direct experience. Like, even on the site, we say, come experience your intuition, because Michael Bennett taught me that. He's like, experience is the best teacher. I'm like, you're right. Because until you've experienced something, you don't really know it's true. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I've probably been more self-taught, as I was like, okay, God, show me. Like, I already know everything, and so does everybody else. It's just about remembering it. And Janice Erickson told me that. She's like, you're remembering what you already know. And it just resonated. And when I say resonated, it's like, oh yeah, that's truth. Like, we all know when something feels true. I call it resonate. That resonates. That feels right.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And I love that you mentioned love, because I think you and I both agree that that is synonymous also with intuition, or your inner truth, your inner knowing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just feel like you're such a teacher of love. Like, we're teachers of love. Like, that is why we're here. Like, I feel like that's why we even came together, is to like raise the frequency, because again, the heart is the gateway to your intuition. And obviously the heart is love. So that's where we all need to start. That's where the foundation is. Like, my first class in the training is the foundation of love, because unless you're starting there, it's not going to last. Only love will sustain, right? So what fears do you need to let go of to follow your intuition? What fears do you need to let go of to follow your dreams? And I would write these all down. And what are you willing to let go of, so you can actually achieve your dreams and move into the lightness of your intuition guiding you? Because I'm so blissful and happy and light because I'm following my intuition, right? It doesn't mean I don't get bumps, like I called him a few weeks ago, or whenever it was, for the last 2 months, because sometimes we get kind of like gut punch, like, where did that come from? But she kept saying, Abby, it's higher, it's higher. And I'm like, I know you're right, but it doesn't feel like that. So again, listen, if you're getting a gut punch, okay, where are you going higher? Where's the new direction, right? What fears do you need to let go of? Again, I'm going to say it again. What fears do you need to let go of to follow your intuition? What fears do you need to let go of to follow your dreams? And what do you need to let go of in general? Because anything that's weighing you down, that's a thought that doesn't feel good, let it go. That's a belief, which is really just a thought connected with an emotion that doesn't feel good, let it go, right? Because beliefs aren't who you are, but intuition is you. It's your soul embodied. So when you connect to that truth, you can start releasing all these beliefs that are usually blocks stopping you from living your highest potential. So That's
Yeah.
an intro into intuitive success coaching.
Yeah, you have a whole program called the Intuitive Success Coaching, and you highlight, you basically, like I said, this book,
Hmm.
Touch the Light, Illuminate Your Highest Potential, is really a nice roadmap for what you're describing, I think, for adults, but also can be utilized with children. And I know that you're developing even more connections and programming with many teachers and hundreds of children with the intuitive child. So for those listening who are wondering, well, how can I release my fears when I've had trauma from the past, or my child, I'm separated from my partner and my child is parented 50% of the time with another partner and I don't really agree with how they're parenting. What are some suggestions you have to help these people when they kind of can get into these roadblocks, which really are opportunities, of course, for growth and learning, but there can be a lot of suffering involved in those situations. And I know you and I are so passionate about intuition because we know that that's a great way to help move through those difficult times.
Yeah, honestly, what comes to mind is to go to our site. So go to www.lifeforceconnection.com and book an intro session with myself or one of our team, because you want to start talking, you want to have community, you want to have the dialogue, because you don't want to get stuck in your head. I've given you the way to connect with your intuition, but as you start reaching out and creating connection, you realize A, you're not alone, just like the little boy I told you in the center. B, there's actually certain things that you can do from that conversation that are specific to you and what you need. So I think every individual is unique, right? So in conversation, we can help you discern, what are your next steps? Do you need to take a class? Do you want to have a full certification course? Do you want to work with a kid? Do you want to call in and see if you want to just get a reading? Like, you don't know until you dive a little deeper to the specifics of it. So I would just say to go to lifeforceconnection.com, and I believe on the top of the page, there's an intro session, and they're completely free. And it helps us help you, basically, because it's not a cookie cutter one for all.
Very true. What is it you hope to give back to the world with your intuitive child program and methods?
Beautiful question. I'm like, jaw dropping. Wow. I mean, it's what I've been doing. It's love. It's just, and it's like, and it's not even giving back to the world. It's just giving to the world. It's like a pure unconditional love. Like, Dan's like, Abby, you could get paid for this. I'm like, no, it's the essence of it. It needs to be so pure, for the nonprofit, it needs to be so pure that it's just service. It's just love. And it doesn't mean you don't monetize your gifts in your business, but for specific callings, sometimes it's just to serve. So to answer your question, love.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And what has following your intuition done for you in your life? And also working with all of the beautiful children who I know you come to love very quickly in that process.
Can you repeat the question again? All I heard was all the children I love. And I'm like, yep, that's right. Somehow I blocked out the rest. I'm like, yep, I love those kids.
What have you gained from following your intuition, and what do you feel you have received in your life by following your intuition for yourself since you've been a child, following that through a teenager to having your own successful business and practice, and also with working with and assisting these children really to trust their own inner knowing, their love, their higher intelligence?
Wow. Such a great question. I've gained my life. I literally have created my life from my intuition. So what I've gained from my intuition is my partnership, my friends, clients, you, everybody listening, my beautiful home, my car, the schools, the children I work with, my amazing parents, one of which has moved into the light beyond the physical. My mom, who's still like one of my best friends. And my dad, literally, his spirit walks with me every day. Like, he literally guides me. So Dan and Em and I can probably share this, all shared that we've had parents that have been able to ascend to a higher place, but they walk with us. And so for anybody that's lost a parent in the physical, I invite you to move to that higher realm of your heart and your third eye to see, feel, sense, and know them, because they do walk with us. And to me, I think of them as angels. Like I think of my dad as an angel. And actually my mom, that's still embodied as an angel. Like, I mean, they held that space for me and still do. So I just love that question, because I think that's why I believe so much in this work, as I can tell you all from the bottom of my heart and look you square in the eye that I've gained my life from following my intuition, like moment to moment. Like it's incredible.
Yeah.
Anybody can do it. Anybody can. That's
Mhm.
why I teach it. Literally, the year-long certification is how to do that, how to create a life you love and monetize your gifts. And I started that probably 10 years ago, because I'm like, spiritual entrepreneurs need to make money, because it's the greatest gift to support yourself, because you need to be here. So as you get paid, you can support yourself, but you're also able to give back, right? It's a complete circle. So it's just, I think it's a gift to be able to make money. It's not like a job.
And
It's
some people listening will want to use their gifts for some type of financial gain. And for some people, it's just to improve their life, their relationship with their children, the children in their lives, or their family, or their sense of community. You brought up spirituality. How do you feel you help children through the intuitive child with their own spirituality?
I just have one other thought about that. You're right. They don't have to follow money. They can also just develop it. So we have intuitive you for that if they need to. But how do kids? So to me, kids, in my experience, kids aren't often talking about like religion. Like they know the word God. Like I remember at NCDS Country Day School, I had these pants that I guess they mean the symbol of God. And I didn't even know that. I just thought they were cool pants. So they're like aware of it, but they're not really saying a whole lot about it. They're more just being. It's more like, yeah, they're spiritual, but it's not really a conversation that I've had with them. More because I don't want to step on any toes of religion. And so spirituality and religion can sometimes be there can be a fine line there. So I haven't really had too much discussion around that, to be honest.
They're
It's
just being it. And I think that that's something that I found with my intuition, is that myself, having grown up in a Christian-based religion until my parents separated, and then thank goodness, not that that wasn't, a good path. It was just, for me, I like to be more eclectic and respect all the paths of connection really to spirituality. Is that I think intuition offers that personal connection to the divine,
yes.
and our connection, which is what yoga is about too, right? Is our
Yes.
inner connection to the greater all and oneness of which we are all a part.
Yeah, you said it, your personal connection. And that's where I feel it's at. Like Dan and I have talked about that. Like we all have our unique connection. I'm like, I bless you in the way you connect. This is how I connect. Em connects how she connects. Like I feel like nobody should ever judge another person on their connection. I can only offer what I know in hopes and in the belief that it'll help to activate whatever needs to be activated within you in your way. Like it's just a way for you to connect with you. You know what I'm saying? I'm not telling you this is the only way. I'm just saying, hey, this is what I know that can help you open your intuition, which is your, like you said, personal connection to, you can call it the divine, life force, love, God, again, whatever works for you. Because I have trained people of all different religions and walks of life. So that's why I know that like it works for everybody. But it's not, I think it's called non-sectarian. Isn't that what it is? Like non-religious. It's not specific to one religion. It's extremely practical. In fact, most of my clients have been executives, like high-end business people, because it's very practical.
Yeah, yeah. How can children trust their intuition?
That's a great question. Wow, I love your questions. You're so good at this. Um,
Thank you.
yeah, how can they trust their intuition? I guess honestly, my first thing is they just do. They just do. Children do trust their intuition. It's a matter of, are we supporting them? So they
Giving them an environment in which to trust it.
yeah, they just do. How can they? They just do. And don't negate their intuition. If they tell you something, believe them. Now, your intuition will activate if they're lying to you. I've had some students that have flat out lied to me, like, Miss Abby, I didn't do that. And I'm like, I just saw you do that. Now, there could be some unawareness, but there's also some flat out like, I know you're lying to me right now.
And people listening might think, oh, well, children need boundaries, so we can't just listen to their, it's being able, like you're saying, it's being able to discern the child's intuition and support
right.
the process.
So you discern a child's intuition by following your own. So for example, another fun story, like, teaching kids yoga, it's like, all right, like, you want to goof off during the first 5 poses and just laugh with your friends and tell me you're not talking. Okay, you guys need to sit aside until you're ready to actually follow the poses and be quiet, and then you can play the game. And then there's like, oh, really, Miss Abby? Because they already know they were misbehaving. But until I call them out by following my intuition, they're going to keep doing it. So the reason I brought that up is boundaries. The boundary is, here's what happens. Here's the consequence of doing that. Then you can come and play. But your intuition knows all along. So does mine, right? So discernment is there as you follow your intuition, right? And be that example. Set the boundary for them to remember listening to their intuition because they know what they're doing. And then let's all have fun in games, right?
Is there anything else you wanted to share about the Intuitive Child program or your nonprofit at the beginning of our conversation here that's just been rich with wonderful gems? And I hope people listening actually go back and watch this a second or third time. Yeah. Is there anything else that you want to share about the wonderful ways that you are helping people with the Intuitive Child program?
So I would love if anybody feels called to go to our site. My beautiful best friend, Alyssa Williamson, has helped create it. She's also on the Life Force Connection team, and M's part of it now too, I'm pretty sure, because we just had a conversation before this. We're going to be doing some more intuitive development classes for adults. But for the kids, if you go to www.theintuitivechild.co, you can learn about how our program works, how you can sign up, how you can share it with the school near you. Like I said, we're starting to get in the schools, which has been amazing because that's just been my dream, to reach millions of kids. Like, I know that's my purpose. So it's beautiful. There's a sample video that you can get so you can learn about it. Yeah, it's full of information. So I invite you to go there. And then I gave the site earlier, but I'll give it again at the nonprofit. It's www.oneheartglobal.co. And then I invite you to go to the mission page, which is /mission/. So you'll learn about the core of it. You can donate there. And you're also going to see retreats. So what we've done in the past is we go to different countries and I lead a retreat. I lead an intuitive factor retreat for about 7 days and go to the orphanage there. So you'll see Bali, Thailand, Ecuador there. The last couple times, though, I haven't done a retreat with the COVID thing and everything. I had this beautiful just blessing to go to Ecuador with my dad before he transitioned. And I intuitively knew, I remember holding his hand on the plane, like, wow, this might be one of the last times I do it. So you'll see on one of those pages, there's a beautiful video of me actually teaching the kids live at Casa Hogar in Ecuador. So I invite you to look at that. You can get kind of an experience of it. And then just recently, Dan and I went to Mexico. So we didn't teach a retreat. We're actually on vacation. And I'm like, hey, babe, I know there's kids we're meant to serve here. And he's like, oh, here she goes. So I talked to everybody at the resort. It was so beautiful. And I was having breakfast and I'm telling the waiter, I don't even know how the conversation came up, but I'm like, I need to help kids. And he's like, oh, go here. I talked to the front desk. They tell me where to personally call. It was like the whole city, wherever we went, it was like magic. There was this interconnectedness, just weaving everything together. And, we're all family, One Heart Global, right? They started giving us stuff. They'd be like, oh, well, you just served them. Oh, forget that. Now you can have this, just giving back, right? Because it's like that huge heart, right? The one heart. So anyways, yeah. So all that to say, we like to do retreats with that, but recently we've just been kind of going where we're called. We do have a retreat coming up in Greece though next summer. So if you're interested in going to Greece, you can email us at success@lifeforceconnection.com. So yeah, let's see what else. Such good stuff.
Yeah, it is truly remarkable what you're doing, Abby, and I'm so grateful to help amplify your voice, your heart, your mind, your energy. You really are an ambassador and an advocate for children to be able to trust themselves before it is conditioned out of them.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful to have this conversation with you. And for those listening, I'm also really grateful that you're here witnessing this. And I hope that even if there's one takeaway you got from this conversation, that it helps you with your inner child or the children in your lives and those listening. And I just want to emphasize that you help children, you help adults, and you also help those who work with children. So it sounds like there's many pathways for those of you listening to work with Abby and with her fabulous organizations. And is there any product or service, I know you've mentioned some so far, that you want to share, or any offers you might have for those listening to help inspire them further on this journey with the intuitive child today?
Thanks. I would just go to the main site. So if you go to www.lifeforceconnection.com, just follow your heart. You can get a session with me or somebody on the team. You can do the full certification, which, like Em said, is, you can get certified as an intuitive success coach, and you can do it for money or just to develop your intuition. Either path is fine. We have something called Intuitive You, which is just to create a life you love. The Intuitive Success Club is to create a business you love. So whatever calls to you. You can also do individual classes or modules, and you'll see stuff about the intuitive child and One Heart Global. It's just all there. So I just really invite people to, listen to what feels right. I also believe at the top of the page, there is a downloadable meditation. So you can enter your email and get an activation of all the chakras. So that's a fun way to get started. Yeah, just come join the community. Be a part of the change, be a part of this amazing movement, because I know your intuition is going to lead you exactly where you need to be.
And because I know your mission is also to connect with schools and teachers, what would you specifically say to those teachers who maybe work with younger children, maybe pre-K, kindergarten, elementary, maybe even all the way up to high school? What services that you offer would they benefit the most from?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that. We are actually developing a training for teachers and parents, actually, because they obviously need to be trained on how to work with the kids. So if I can't be there, another team member can't be there. For instance, Mexico, when I live in America, we're developing that course where you all can learn the techniques. And the truth is, you're going to be learning to develop your intuition to be able to teach it, because it goes back to the motto, be the change, right? But there's specific ways that you can reach children, like we started to talk about in this, show series about, really connecting with the heart and the gut, and creating the space for them to have a voice and take action on what they know. So yes, we have a course being developed for you. If you need to just reach out to me personally because you have a school you'd like to refer me to, maybe a parent, a friend, whatever it is, like I said, it's such a personal connection. Maybe it's you, maybe it's you that we just need to have a heart to heart with. You can email me at Abby, ABBY, at lifeforceconnection.com. So would love to chat.
You are really also a teacher for the teachers. And for those of you listening who may be thinking, well, I'm not a teacher, I'm not affiliated with a school, I have no children in my life currently. Maybe you want to get in touch with Abby and begin your own intuitive child program in your own community.
Yes. Wow. Okay. You're off the charts intuitive. I literally was like channeling stuff about bringing it exactly what you just said, like having groups do it, because it's exactly that, having intuitive child circles where other people are doing it, because it's like, I want to, what is the word when you have like more than one of you? It's a franchise in business, but what is it when you're a person? Clone myself.
Yes. Well, that's how it spreads, is that people become confident with this and then bring it to their own communities so that it can really expand and reach those, because you are one person, but you have such a big heart. And I know that you are such an inspiration and light to the adults listening and to the children in the world. So
Yeah.
thank you. Abby, is there anything else you want to share today about the intuitive child with our listeners?
No, not about the intuitive child. I think just, yeah, know that like you're an inspiration to other people as you follow your intuition because your light shines. And again, that's the magnetic force of love that draws all good things to you. So just trust your intuition and shine on.
Shine on, everybody. Abby Gooch, thank you so much. It's my pleasure to be with you today. This is Emmy Vadnais. Thank you all for listening to our Intuition Summit, and please do reach out to Abby for any more information. Thank you so much for being with me today, Abby. It's been a great pleasure.
Thanks, Em.
Okay. Bye for now, everybody. Be well.